This story discusses sensitive topics, blending real experiences with fictionalized events, names, and timelines. It is not a factual account, but a storytelling interpretation. Dawn crept through the thin barracks curtains, not that it mattered. My body still thrummed with the disorienting lag of crossed time zones, trapped in a place I was never supposed to be. The military had strict rules about wives in the barracks, but with nowhere else to go and no money for hotels, I became a ghost resident in a concrete box that reeked of gym socks and Hawaiian breeze. He dressed swiftly, the crisp lines of his uniform a stark contrast to the squalor surrounding us. Energy drink cans littering the floor, dust bunnies in the corners large enough to name. A perfunctory kiss, a muttered "see you later," and then silence. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone with the truth of our Italian fantasy. I was living on borrowed time in a place that could get us both in trouble. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, a married woman, hiding like a stowaway in my own husband's life. I cleaned. What else was there to do? The bathroom, shared with some faceless neighbor, was a horror of grime and stray hairs. The kitchenette's microwave bore the fossilized remains of meals I didn't want to identify. And so I scrubbed, as if by erasing the filth, I might also scour away the growing realization. This is not love. This is servitude with a view of the Mediterranean. Our days fell into a dismal rhythm. He worked nights, I learned to sleep through daylight. We moved like ghosts past each other, him stumbling in at dawn, me slipping out to the base commissary with the furtiveness of a prisoner on work release, tape on the window. A childish trick to mask my comings and goings. The DVDs I brought played on a loop, their dialogue worn thin as the barracks linoleum. Occasionally, we fought. More often, we simply coexisted. The man who'd promised adventure had delivered confinement. The boy I'd married had no interest in growing up. By month's end, even the fights felt scripted. Just another tired routine in our shared pantomime of marriage. "It's better this way," he'd said the night before my departure, packing his sea bag as casually as if he were leaving for a weekend drill. Yes, I agreed, and meant it. The divorce had been decided in a rare moment of clarity, spoken not in shouts, but in the weary silence of two strangers who had run out of lies to tell each other. A plane lifted off from Naples with a shudder, and as the Italian coastline shrank to a mere brushstroke against the sea, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 3 months. The legal unraveling of our marriage was as bureaucratic as our union had been impulsive. Papers signed in triplicate, assets divided, what few there were. And then, the final twist of the knife, news from a well-meaning acquaintance. He's seeing someone new, another sailor, of course. I might have wept, had the well of my tears not run dry somewhere between the barracks' squalor and the 1,000 small betrayals. Instead, I felt only a dull throb where the pain had once been sharp. The grief, it seemed, had already been mourned in installments. Every neglected afternoon, every unanswered text, every night spent watching DVDs alone on a scratchy bunk. And then, like the turning of a page, relief. Not the giddy sort, but the quiet, steady kind that comes when a fever breaks. The relief of stepping out of shoes that never fit, of shedding a name that never quite belonged to me. The relief of knowing that some loves are not bridges, but tolls paid to cross into the next chapter of one's life. Returning to my parents' home at 19, divorced, decidedly wiser, and nursing wounds still tender to the touch, I faced the unfamiliar luxury of a blank slate. The girl who had once played at adulthood in a barracks overseas was gone. In her place stood a woman with a singular mission: reinvention. University beckoned like a siren's call. I packed my bags with the same fervor I'd once reserved for military care packages, trading TAMO for syllabi. My apartment, though modest, was mine alone. No shared sinks, no taped windows, no ghosts of a failed marriage haunting the linen closet. But solitude, I quickly learned, was not the same as living. If I were to truly rise from the ashes, I needed a flock. And so, with no small amount of ironic amusement, I found myself chanting sorority pledges in matching letters, surrounded by women whose bubbly exuberance felt both alien and intoxicating. They were everything I wasn't: effervescent, unjaded, obsessed with glitter and themed parties. And yet, among them, I unearthed kindred spirits. Girls who preferred deep talks over vodka sodas to squealing over formals, who understood that sisterhood could be silent solidarity as much as synchronized dances. For the first time in my life, I held the reins. And God help me, I yanked them. Yes! I kissed boys with abandonment, danced until my feet bled, and traded my dutiful wife persona for one of reckless agency. There were mornings I woke up with mascara smudged like war paint from a good time, and forgotten regrets to remember later. Nights where the line between empowerment and self-destruction blurred to oblivion. Regrets? Plenty. But also, finally, a sense of ownership over my own mistakes. And when the haze cleared, there I stood, degree in hand, heart a little bruised, but beating stronger. A phoenix who'd leaned into the burn. Home again, this time with a bachelor's degree pressed between my palms like a shield, and the hollow-eyed weariness of a soldier returned from a different kind of war. The house smelled the same, lemon polish and my father's aftershave, but the air hung heavier now, thick with the unspoken. My mother's illness grew teeth in our house, a ravenous, shapeless thing we fed with silence and half-truths, its hunger outstripping our ability to name it. For years, specialists had scribbled prescriptions in elegant, useless script. My father, newly retired, moved through the rooms like a ghost, his hands fluttering between the coffee maker and her heating pad. And my mother, oh my mother, she who had once chased me through sprinklers, now folded in on herself like a paper crane, her body a prison of pain. If they don't figure it out, she'd whispered once, I don't know what I'll do. The words had coiled around my ribs and stayed there. On my 22nd birthday, I dressed in a sundress the color of champagne, letting my sister-in-law snap photos for the obligatory social media tributes. Happy birthday to me. That evening, we gathered around a grocery store cake. My mother took a bite, just one, and declared it delicious. She smiled. I pretended not to notice the tremor in her fingers as she set the fork down, or the way her other hand pressed into her abdomen, like she was holding herself together. The morning had been ordinary, deceptively so. Waffles golden under the farmhouse lights, butter pooling in their square pockets. My father humming as he flipped them onto our plates. My mother, pale but present, nibbling at the edges with something almost like appetite. A miracle we pretended it was, a sign of better days. I'll mow the back 40, my father said, kissing her forehead. Come lie with me, she murmured to me after, her fingers cold around mine. And so we did, the familiar drone of house hunters, the weight of her beside me, the glow of my phone screen, a tableau of normalcy. When she rose to use the bathroom, I barely glanced up. The flush, the faucet, the creak of the door, all as it should be. 5 minutes, that's all it took. My father's voice shattered the world. Hannah, come here, your mom. The rest was a smear of sound. My legs moved without me. The porch swing, the rabbit slippers, the terrible, impossible stillness. I have no memory of screaming, only of floating outside myself, watching a girl with my face crumpled to her knees beside a body that could not, would not be my mother. Not in those slippers, not with the note in her pocket that began Dearest, Hannah. The police asked their questions. I answered in a voice that didn't sound like mine. Somewhere a detective murmured clear case and suffering. Words that meant nothing and everything. Later I would read her letters until the ink blurred. Later I would learn the weight of a silence no phone call could breach. But in that first raw instant, there was only the swing's gentle creak in the wind, and the unforgiving truth. Some pain refuses to be outrun. Dearest watchers, thank you for spending this time with me. If this story resonated with you, the full Most Improper memoir awaits on Amazon. Find a link in my bio, along with my memoir will be Most Improper and Support Small Authors merch with the QR code to my memoir. Please help me extend my reach and tag for featured posts. Join me for new content. YouTube Shorts, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Full chapters, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. and weekends at 8 p.m. TikTok Tales drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Instagram Secrets, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Your support means everything. Subscribe, leave a comment, and share with a fellow Rebel reader. All links are in my bio. Until next time, stay gloriously improper.